Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. It doesn't look good. Bereshis bara Elokim. What is Elokim? Midas Adin. Oh boy, did we see Midas Adin. Did we see Midas Adin on Shabbos? Why can't it say Bereshis bara Yud Kei Vav Kei? Yud Kei Vav Kei is Chesed and Rachamim. Rashi already says, brings on the Medrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create the world with Midas Adin, with judgment, and he saw the world wouldn't be able to last. So he was Meshatif with Midas Adin, Midas HaRachamim. Meshatif. But in the Sfarim HaKadoshim, in the Zohar HaKodesh, it says that Din is actually rooted in Rachamim. But it says Elokim. Elokim is Midas Adin. Where do you see Rachamim? The secret is you have to look at Elokim in its entirety. How do you spell Elokim? Aleph and Lamed, Hey and Yud and Mem. In the Hebrew alphabet, every letter has the revealed part and the concealed part. The inside, the kishkes, the toch, the pnimius. So if we look at Elokim, let's do some math together. Aleph is spelled Aleph Lamed Fei. Lamed of Elokim is spelled Lamed Mem Daled. Hey is spelled Hey Hey. Yud is spelled Yud Vav Daled. And Mem is spelled Mem Mem. The gematria of the entire name Elokim equals 300. 300 is the word Berachamim. So you wonder, where is the Rachamim? Everything is rooted in Rachamim, and therefore Bereshis bara Elokim. It looks frightening, but it's all rooted in Rachamim. And with that we can understand Medrash Abba. Pasha Nun Gimel Ois Aleph. Ein davar ra yored mi lemala. How hard is it to say that sentence? Ein davar ra yored mi lemala, but we have to say it again and again and again until it penetrates our hearts. From the beginning, from the outset, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says already, guys, don't give up hope. Bereshis bara Elokim, superfluous letter. Why can't you say Reshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz? What did you lose? Reshis means in the beginning. So Reshis, the first thing he did, he created heaven and earth. You know, ink is kind of expensive these days, so why spill more ink on the base? It's not needed. The Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Beis Reshis. Twice there's a Reshis. You started something, it doesn't work out, start again. Beis, twice you can start a new beginning, Reshis. Even though you feel resistance, you see resistance, don't give up hope. Don't despair. The beginning of the Chumash, beginning of the year, Kodesh Baruch Hu already says, guys, don't give up, don't give up. I know sometimes it's tough. I was once by Rabbi Maran Saratoy, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zatzal, came with a 7 or 8-year-old, and he says to Reb Chaim, he just started learning Chumash. So Reb Chaim says, what are you learning? He says, Bereshis. He says, what Pasha? He says, Bereshis. So Reb Chaim says to him, so why does the Torah start with Beis? Why Bereshis? Why not with Aleph? The kid is 8 years old. He doesn't know. He's confused. He's puzzled. So Reb Chaim says to him, Beis is 2. Aleph, Beis. Beis is 2. Because the beginning, Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world. He didn't create one. He created 2. He created Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. If you're good in this one, you get to go to the next. And then he said, do you want a candy? And the kid said yes, and he gave him a candy. Candies and Torah go very well together because they're both sweet. And it leaves a very good and sweet impression in the kid's mind. The Torah always has to be accompanied by sweets. The Gaon Mivilna says the word Bereshis is the 6 things which are the most essential for a Yid. Beis, Reish, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Taf. Each one stands for a certain midah. Beis is bitachon, and we need bitachon. Reish is rotzon, the will. You need to want it. You need to have aspirations. Aleph is ahava, love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, love of Torah. love of your fellow Jew. Shin is shtika. Yeah. Sometimes we need to know how to be silent. And to be mekabel din shamayim be'ahava. Yud is yira, fear. We need to have trepidation. Yira shamayim. And taf is Torah. And the Gaon writes, these are the 6 midos which are the most important for a human being. Bitochen. But Lemaisa is frightening. There's an unknown mitzvah in the Taryag mitzvahs in the Torah. Not somewhere in a medrash that no one ever heard of. 613 mitzvahs. Mitzvah Taf Kuf Chaf Hei, Sefer HaChinuch 525 out of 613 is a mitzvah I think most people are not aware of. Mitzvah deoraisa. The pasuk in Parashas Shoftim says, Lo ta'arotz mipneihem. Don't be afraid. Sefer HaChinuch defines this mitzvah: when you're going to war, you're not allowed to be afraid. The Torah says you're not allowed to be afraid. It's the same Torah that legislates emotions. The same Torah that says, Ve'ahavta lereacha kamoicha. I'd like you to love the guy sitting right next to you, even though yesterday, who knows what he did to you. The same Torah says, Lo sisna es achicha bevavecha. Don't hate your brother. The same Torah that says, Ve'ahavta es Hashem elokecha. Love Ribono shel olam. The same Torah that knows how to legislate emotions. Here tells us again, don't be afraid. Which means, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us and created all our emotions, tells us that we can control them, apparently we can. To some extent we can. Otherwise we wouldn't be commanded to do something we cannot do. But why should we be afraid? Because it's in the hands of Ribono shel olam. You don't fight a war. Sometimes you think you take a gun, you go to the battlefield, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. We say it every single day. Between Ashrei Uva Letzion, the last pasuk in Perek Tehilim Lamnatzeach, Eile Barechev ve'ele basusim. They can come with paratroopers and with tanks and with whatever they want. Ve'anachnu, even though we have tanks and we have much more sophistication of machinery and arms and everything, anachnu b'shem Hashem Elokeinu naskim. We don't fight wars. We do our ishtadlus, but it doesn't do anything. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu if He wills it. And therefore, if you realize it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who's fighting your war, why would you be afraid? Lo ta'arotz mipeneihem mitzvah deoraisa. 525. The Gemara says in Brachos Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis, Machloikes Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav says, sighing. Oh, you see what happened? Sighing breaks down a person's half of his body. That's what Rav says. Rabbi Yochanan says, no. It breaks his entire body. Anacha shoiveres chatzi gufo shel Adam. Rav. Rabbi Yochanan says, no. Shoveres kol gufo shel Adam. The Gemara says, but there's a pasuk. Ashrei Adam mefachet tamid. Praiseworthy is a person who's always afraid. What are you telling me? It breaks one's body apart? The Gemara says, no. You want to be afraid? There's 2 things you're allowed to be afraid of. 2 things you're allowed to be afraid of. You can be afraid of the aveos that you have in your hand, and that will propel you to do tshuva. And you can be afraid, maybe I'm going to forget what I just learned, and that will motivate you to do chazara, to learn and review, to learn and to review. But to be afraid of the enemies. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is fighting our wars. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Amud Beis. Listen to our language. Lo teol davya belibcha. The Gemara says, don't bring worry into your heart. Why not? Because the Gemara says, worry killed many mighty heroes. That's the lesson of the Gemara. But how? We need to increase emunah. David HaMelech said a pasuk, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך is very easy. Boiker, in the words of the Navi Ishaya, always denotes salvation, redemption, geula, when things are going great. It's very easy when you're marrying off your son and you just won the lottery and you have 5 more new clients and everything is going great. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I love you, I have such belief in you. But that's not the trick. The trick is ve'emunascha b'leilos. Leilos always denotes darkness, yisurim, affliction, trouble and tribulation, difficulties, challenges, all those uncomfortable things that we want to avoid. That's where we're tested. Ve'emunascha, you want to see how a person is tested? B'leilos. Can you produce that same love and the same emunah when everything was going great in the morning, when you see the light, but when it's really, really dark outside? So what do you gain if you do have emunah? Listen to a language of Chazal, not to be believed. If this wasn't the Medrash, we're not allowed to say such a thing. Not allowed to say it. Dvarim Rabba Parsha Hey Ois Ches Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Tana Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Kol mi, not limited to specific people. Kol mi sheboteach ba'HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Kol mi sheboteach ba'HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Zoiche lihiyot kayoytze bo. He will be like Hashem. Who told Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi this unbelievable revelation? Minayin? Shene'emar Yirmiyah Perek Yud Zayin Baruch HaGever asher yivtach ba'Hashem. How do we normally complete this pasuk? Baruch HaGever asher yivtach ba'Hashem Ve'haya Hashem yivtacho. Listen to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi how he reads it. Baruch HaGever asher yivtach ba'Hashem. Blessed is the person who trusts in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's going to happen to him? Ve'haya, he will be Hashem. Zoiche liyot kayoytze bo. He becomes like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I just got this. My chapters were from Chav Zayin Lamed Beis. Guess what? Almost the last pasuk that I read. Perek Lamed Beis. One before the last. Ve'aboteach ba'Hashem. Chesed yesovevenu. You're going to be circled, surrounded by chesed. But everybody asks, lama. Why did this happen? Lama, lamed, mem, hey. Lamed is 30 in Gematria, mem is hey, 40 in Gematria, and hey is 5. That's total 75. Lama is not a Jewish question. Lama. We said in Hallel last week, Lama yomu agoyim. It's not a Jewish question. Because Lama is the same Gematria as Bitachon. Bitachon is 75. When you have Bitachon, you don't ask Lama. The Jewish question is not Lama. It's Ma. Ma. What am I supposed to do now? We are committed, loyal soldiers. They tell us to be happy in Sukkot, so we're happy. They tell us to mourn on Tisha B'Av, we mourn. They tell us to shake the lulav, we do. They tell us to light Hanukkah candles, whatever they tell us. A Jewish question is, Ma, what am I supposed to do right now? What does the Kodesh Baruch Hu want from me? Lama, it's not for us to know, because we're not Nevi'im. How do we get to this bitachon level? We have to make some Sfarim our best friends. Pele Yoetz. A Pele of a Sefer. Pele Yoetz. Can't move without him. So easy to read. Short essays based on Aleph Beis. Ochos Tzadikim. This is a Rishon. Ochos Yosher, written by Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Sefer Musar that talks to our generation. Choivas Alvavois, Shara Bitochon. The Chassam Sofer, who is greater than the Chassam Sofer? The Chassam Sofer used to learn Shara Bitochon every single day. And the Chassam Sofer himself said, on a day that I don't learn the Choivas Alvavois, I feel a little coolish in my attitude in Bitochon. Chassam Sofer. What are we going to say? Cheskel Levenstein said that after the First World War, the Chafetz Chaim said, now starts the big war. He said it over to Reb Shalom Shvadron. And Reb Shalom Shvadron asked Reb Cheskel Levenstein, what was the Chafetz Chaim trying to do? It's not enough what they went through, he was trying to scare people? What was he trying to say? And Reb Cheskel Levenstein told him he wasn't trying to scare anyone. The Chafetz Chaim was saying, after so many multitudes of Jewish people and non-Jews, so many people were killed. People felt, who's going to protect us? Who's going to guard us now? And the Chafetz Chaim said, that is the advice of Yetzer Hara, to make you doubt that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Shomer Amo Yisrael La'ad. And that is a greater war. To doubt Ribono Shel Olam is a greater war. Reb Chaim Kanievsky in his Sefer, Ochos Yosher, wrote a chapter, very, very long, page and a half, page 75, called Pachad Udeaga, fear and worry. And Reb Chaim says many people spend their lives with all kinds of anxieties and worries. And Reb Chaim says, what are you afraid of? If the Gezerah was already decreed on Rosh Hashanah, so it was already decreed. And if it wasn't, and you're going to have a very long, beautiful, healthy life, so why are you worried? And if you want to do something, if it was decreed, so just change. There are things, and we're going to find out soon in Mitzvah Hashem, what they are, that our sages tell us can cancel bad decrees. But what does worry do? How does that help? With that we can understand we're going 6 months forward. Megillah Daf Zayin Amud Beis, Paskin Halacha Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Siman Taf Reish Tzadi Hei. Omer Rava teaches, Mechayev inish levesumim bepuraya adelo yada. One has to drink on Purim so much so that he can't distinguish adelo yada ben Aru Haman leBaruch Mordechai. And everybody asks, really? Really? You don't want me to know that there's a major difference between wicked Haman and the tzaddik of a Mordechai? There's no difference. There's hundreds of interpretations of this one statement of Rava in the Gemara. Hundreds of interpretations. I think the most simple to understand and the emistic one is what I heard from Mori the Rabbi Reb Neben Tzal Shlita, but Baalei Musa said even before him. We tend to attribute independent koyach to Haman, to Hitler, to Ahmadinejad, to the Hamas, Yemach Shemam Vezicham. They don't have any koyach. When the Kodesh Baruch Hu saw that Klal Yisrael weren't behaving the way we're supposed to behave, so Kodesh Baruch Hu yelled out, he called in all the worlds, I need a Haman! Any volunteers? And Haman raised his hand and said, yeah, I can do it. And for that he will be punished forever and ever. But the problems didn't start because of Haman. And when we did Shuvah, so Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I need a Mordechai. It's time for Geula. Anyone interested? And Mordechai said, I'll do it. And for that he will be rewarded forever and ever. But salvation didn't come because of Mordechai. It's because we did Shuvah. We call the shots. We conduct this world. I didn't say it. Yirmiyah said it. He wrote a pasuk Yerecha. Mipi Elyon, lo teitze haraos ve'hatov. From the mouth of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, bad or good doesn't come out. We call the shots. And based on our behavior, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, okay, I'll get a Haman or a Hitler, I'll get a Mordechai, I'll get a Eliyahu Novi and Mashiach Im Hashem Bekarov. Has nothing to do with the Rishayim. And we tend to think that, well, this was planned for 2 years apparently, and they came with 3,000 guys, heavily armed, and they had great maps that detailed exactly where they're going to go. They did some serious work. So, well, and we all fell asleep. Has nothing to do with it. The most sophisticated arms that they will have cannot fire if a Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't will it. Our most sophisticated machinery, and we have the best army out there. But it's powerless if a Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't want it to work. You know, there's a segula to find lost items. Pashas Chayei Sarah. It's a Medrash Rabbah. Amar Rabbi Binyamin. Hakol bechezkat sumin. Everyone has a chazaka of blind. Ad she'HaKodesh Baruch Hu me'ir senayim. Until HaKodesh Baruch Hu allows them to see. What's the story? Hagar took her son Yishmael, and he has very high fever. He is in bad shape, and she davens, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, we need water. He davens. And then the malach comes to her and says, Hagar, there's a well right here. Don't you see it? Oh, thanks so much. The well was always there. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't allow her to see it. So therefore, Rabbi Binyamin teaches, everybody is bechezkat sumin, is like blind until HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows him to see what was always there. So we were like blind, even though we have all the sophisticated machinery out there, the sensors and the arms. We have it. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want it to work, so we didn't. After the Holocaust, somebody came to the Chazon Ish. He said to him, Rebbe, how is it possible These unbelievable numbers, how is this possible? And the Chazon Ish told him, sometimes you go to the tailor and you see the guy bought such expensive material, silk material, the best material out there. And you see this guy coming with the scissors and he starts to cut it. What are you, crazy? What are you doing? It's such an expensive material. Why are you cutting it? Come back tomorrow. You'll see what a beautiful suit he made. The Chazon Ish told him HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making now the suit for Melech HaMashiach. He is cutting. Yeah, he's cutting. He's cutting in Klal Yisrael. But with that, he's preparing the suit for Melech HaMashiach. And I think this, the Chazon Ish said 75 years ago, the suit has got to be almost ready. It's got to be finished. There were so many additional cuts that took place since the Holocaust. And every Yid from those Kedoshim that were butchered and slain on Shabbos added one more brick to Beis HaMikdash. It's almost ready. Geula is extremely near. We don't know Cheshbonos Shamayim. I'm hearing all kinds of thoughts and ideas that people are throwing out in the last 4 days. Oh, it's because, they stopped the davening on Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv. They did this and they did that. Shtusim v'ahavolim. For two reasons. First of all, we do not have Nevi'im among us. We don't have Nevi'im today. And second of all, you don't speak Chinese to a person who's from France. You don't speak in English to somebody from China. It doesn't work. Who are the people who stopped the prayers in the middle of Tel Aviv? Ignoramuses. So Kodesh Baruch Hu can speak to them till tomorrow. They don't understand the language. It doesn't change anything. So they're not the problem. Who doesn't understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu's language? Or who is supposed to understand it? We. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to us. So instead of looking elsewhere and starting to blame the whole world, we have to look in the mirror and say, how can we change? How can we improve? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to us. This is our language. There are 150 chapters in Tehillim. 150 chapters. If I were to ask you, which chapter is the most honorable from all the chapters of Tehillim? I think you should respond by saying, what a chutzpah question. Which one is the most honorable? How can we determine which one is most honorable? However, the Ibn Ezra decided he knows which chapter is the most honorable of all Tehillim. Ibn Ezra, Rishon. Listen to a language in the Hakdama of the Ibn Ezra, the chapter Kuf Lamed Tet, 139. If it wasn't the Ibn Ezra, we can't say such a thing. Listen to a language. Ze hamizmor nichbad meod bedarkei Hashem. This chapter is very exalted, very honorable in the ways of Hashem. Ve'ein be'ele hachamisha sfarim mizmor kamohu. And there was nothing like it in the entire book of Tehillim. Ibn Ezra continues. Uchefi binas adam bedarkei Hashem vedarkei haneshama. And the more you look into it, to understand the ways of Hashem, the ways of your own neshama, yisboinen beta'amav. You will understand its hidden secrets. What did Ibn Ezra find in 139 that he didn't find in 138 and 140? The Ibn Ezra starts interpreting this pasuk. He doesn't continue. And he doesn't give it a title. But I think that could be, the Ibn Ezra is trying to give it a title. I'm going to use mine. Famous saying. You can run, but you can't hide. Listen to a language of David HaMelech. Tehillim Kuf Lamed Tes, in the middle of the chapter, Pasuk Zayin until Pasuk Yud Beis. Ana Eilech Meruchacha. Where can I escape from your spirit? Ve'ana mipanecha evrach. Where can I flee from your presence? Im esak shamayim shamata. If I ascend to the heaven, you're there. Ve'atzia she'ol hinecha. So if I make my bed, that's going to be in my grave. Behold, you are there as well. Esa kanfei shachar. Eshkana be'acharis yam. If I take wing with the dawn to come to rest on the western horizon, not going to help me. Gam sham yadcha tancheni v'sochazeni yaminecha. Even there your hand will be guiding me, your right hand will be holding me fast. So I have a clever idea, says David HaMelech va'omar, ach choshech yeshufeni v'layla or ba'adeni. So I say, surely darkness will conceal me, night will provide me with cover. Doesn't work. Gam choshech lo yachshich mimecha v'layla kayom ya'ir kachasheicha ka'oira. Even darkness will not obscure anything from you. And the night will light up like day. Is darkness, so is the light. You can run, but you can't hide. It started with Yoina Hanavi. He tried to do it. We just read about it Yom Kippur. When one goes along with this chapter with him, it's two unbelievable benefits. If you can run but you can't hide, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is seeing you wherever you are. You're always going to do the right thing. So if you go into closed doors, you can do whatever you want. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there as well. But it also means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always watching over you. It's such a motivating chapter. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always with you, no matter where you are. You are protected. Many people called me, starting Motzei Shabbos. I don't know how many. I didn't count. I'm guessing at least 15 by now. Should I go back to the States? Should I go to England? I got a call from France and a few other countries, but primarily the States. Seminary girls, bochurim in yeshivas, families. Should you run? We just said you can run, but you can't hide. I asked this very shaila to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. In the previous rounds we had, a few times. People came to me with the same shaila. People were afraid. Missiles, what do we do? Should we go back? Our parents are nervous in Chutz La'aretz. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky tells me, tell anyone who's afraid, should come here to Bnei Brak. I said, but they're not coming to Bnei Brak. They're staying in B'Shemesh. They're staying in Yerushalayim. He says, anyone who's afraid can come to Bnei Brak. You don't need to go. You need to stay and say Tehillim. Interesting fact. Sweden and Norway. Beautiful country, right? Anyone ever been there? I haven't, but I heard it's just marvelous. Pilei Abriya. Anyone remembers one of the last times Sweden and Norway were involved in a war? I don't. Do you remember? That's a long time ago. Sweden and Norway, beautiful places. Do you know, this is a fact, the highest suicidal rate of youngsters in the world is in Sweden and Norway. Beautiful place. They don't fight. As far as I know, they don't have Hamas coming in. Why are people committing suicide? In the winter, there's almost no sun in Sweden and Norway. And this causes depression. And youngsters open the window and they jump out the window to their death. You think if you're going to run away to America, and America, when heart attacks and cancer comes to the borders, so the officers over there say, no, you can't come in. In America, people are born and they live till 120 and then they say, bye-bye. After a beautiful, marvelous, long, healthy life. There's no issues in, there's no car accidents in America, there's no car accidents. Not in England either, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing you, there's all kinds of ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take one's neshama. He can come to you, or if he wants, you will go to it. You'll open the window and you'll jump to. You can run, but you can't hide. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always here. And there is no safer place than Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the safest place in the world. And Eretz Yisrael is the most unsafe place in the world. Did you hear what I said? It sounds a little confusing. America, Australia, South Africa, France, Spain. They are the most dangerous places in the world. And they are the safest places in the world. There is a Gezerah and Rosh Hashanah. We daven Rosh Hashanah and we all say, Mi yichye, and who won't? Mi bekitzo, and who's not. There's already a Gemara in Sukkah Daf Nun Gimel. The Gemara says the legs of a person's legs will actually lead him to a place where he is supposed to leave his neshama there, and he departs and he moves upstairs. You can't run from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if he wants you, he knows where to find you. The last 10 years, 12 years, I remember going to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, to Reb Aaron Leib Shteiman, to Reb Nissim Karelitz, when we had previous rounds and we had issues, specific issues, when the tzibur needs chizuk. The tzibur needs chizuk. Here, if you remember, a bunch of years ago, Tishrei Tafshin Ayin Gimel, so that's exactly 11 years ago. There were major things that were going on in our town. And they asked me to go to Reb Chaim and ask him, what should we do? And he said, Yitpalelu, daven. That sounds like a cop-out. Daven. Shkoyah. Give me something that actually works. Give me a sgula. Tammuz Tafshin Ayin Daled. So that's a year later. 9.5 years ago. The Hamas again started sending us all kinds of aerial souvenirs. I go to Reb Chaim, Rebbe, what do we do? Tammuz Tafshin Ayin Vav, 2 years later. Again, issues in the neighborhood. Many, many issues. Terrible tragedies. Reb Aaron Leib Shteiman, Reb Nissim Karelitz, Reb Chaim, they should daven. One point I told him, Rebbe, I'm supposed to speak in the shul. I'm supposed to say divrei yisoirus and chizuk. What should I tell the people? There was a wave, you for sure remember, 8 years ago, I think, 7 years ago, of stabbing. Remember the stabbing? What do I say to the people? Reb Chaim says to me, tell them to learn Mishnah Bura, to finish the entire Mishnah Bura. I said, okay, Rebbe, I will. But can I suggest another thing? Maybe we can suggest to people that if we stop stabbing each other with Lashon Hara, with Rechilus, with Otzas Shemra, that will eliminate the koyach of the murderers from the Hamas to be able to stab us. Mida keneged mida. Reb Chaim gave me a bracha that I should be successful in raising the awareness. But where did I get it from? Not my invention. Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer was the Rav of the city of Preshburg, 33 years. Interesting, his son, Shimon, Reb Shimon Sofer, was the Rav after him for 33 years in Preshburg. And his son, I think Akiva Sofer, was the Rav of Preshburg also for 33 years. So 99 years, the Sofer family, chief rabbi of Preshburg. And when the enemy started shooting arrows, back then that's what they had, only arrows, at Preshburg, the Chassam Sofer called a town meeting and he said to people, we have to be careful with those things that Chazal call arrows. Chazal call Lashon Hara, an arrow. Back then, in the time of Chassam Sofer, it was like an arrow. You take it from here and you can send it to your friend. Today, what a sophisticated arrow. You sit in your home, on your keyboard, in 2 seconds you shoot your arrow so far away to the end of the world in a matter of a few seconds. That's a serious arrow. So if you eliminate the power of our arrows, it will eliminate the power of their arrows. The Chassam Sofer added. Back then he said there are other things that Chazal call arrows. And he said one must get stronger in Kedusha, in Tahara, and Shmiras HaEinayim that can lead to improper thoughts and can lead to a sin that Chazal call an arrow, that shoots like an arrow. The Steipler Reb Chaim's father in Chayei Olam says, you can't run away from tzaros. You can switch a tzara for another tzara. But if there was a gezerah, there was a gezerah. We need to do something about the gezerah. We need to challenge the gezerah. And for every tzara, in Yisurim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu already prepares a refuah before it takes place. We just need to tap into it, and therefore one can never give up hope and can never despair, ever. Hashem knows what He's doing. It's been 5,784 years, 3 weeks and change, that He's been conducting this world. He knows what He's doing. We are the only nation that survived. There were great nations before us, great nations. They all disappeared. into the pages of history books. They are no longer here. We are here to stay. We are small in number, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is crazy over us. He loves us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it himself in Sefer Dvarim. I love you. And I also swore to your forefathers. So no matter what, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us. And He knows what He's doing. There's a medrash in Yalkut Shimoni, in Tehillim Remez Taf Reish Pei. It's on the chapter called Yancha Hashem B'Yom Tzara. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will answer you when you have trouble. Says the medrash, Mashal lemahadavar doime. There was a father and a son that were walking. And they're walking, and they're walking, and the son is just so tired. He says, Dad, when are we going to finally get to the city? And his father told him, this will be the siman for you. When you will see a cemetery, you should know we're very close and we're going to see the city immediately. Says the Medrash, that is what the Navi says to Klal Yisrael. If you see a lot of tzaros that are almost covering you, miyad atem nigalim. Geula is very, very near. Sheneemar, Yancha Hashem, when will Hashem answer you? Beyom tzara. When you see tzaros, you know that Geula is extremely near. There's a pasuk we said last week many times. We said Halil. Tehillim Kuf Yud Ches pasuk Hey. Mina meitzar karasika, anani b'merchavka. Meaning, simply understood, Mina meitzar, when it's really narrow and I can't pass, I call unto you Hashem. Karasika. And then, anani b'merchavka. Kadosh Baruch Hu makes it wide, I'm able to pass. There's a superfluous letter here. Why do you have to say min ha-meitzar? How would we make it shorter? Me ha-meitzar. What do you have to throw in that nun? What did you add? Me ha-meitzar karasika. Anani b'merchavka. Me ha-meitzar, if it would be spelled like that, I think it suggests, if this is the meitzar, this is trouble, it can be from the borders. Me ha-meitzar, from here, but not inside. Min ha-meitzar suggests you're inside the kishkis, the toch, the pnimius. You're mamish inside the meitzar. Meitzar stands for trouble, affliction, yisurim, challenges, all those uncomfortable things, difficulties that we want to avoid. And David HaMelech says, if min ha-meitzar karasika, if I call unto you Hashem from within, then anani, then it makes it wide, I'm able to pass. So what's inside the meitzar that I'm going to call to Hashem? What's inside the kishkis of the meitzar? We said before, the Hebrew has a revealed part to it and a concealed part. Every letter has the outside and inside, external, internal. What is inside ha-meitzar? The trouble. Ha-meitzar is spelled in Tehillim, Hey, Mem, Tzadi, and Reish. 4 letters. Inside a Hey, there's a Hey like it. Hey is spelled Hey, Hey. So let's put that Hey that we found on the side. What's inside the Mem? Mem is spelled Mem, Mem. Another Mem like it. We'll put that aside with the Hey. Sadi is spelled Sadi, Daled, Yud. So there's a Daled and a Yud. We'll put that together with the Hey and the Mem. Reish is spelled Reish Shin. So we take the Shin and we throw it in. You know what you have inside the Meitzar with all the trouble? The letters that spell 2 words. Yad Hashem. So that's what David HaMelech says. If min ha-meitzar, if I recognize that all the meitzar, the trouble, the afflictions are coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then I call Him, anani b'merchavka, He makes it wide, I'm able to pass. But so many people ask, but what about our tefillos? We just did 1 cycle of Tehillim, right? Granted, each one said 5-6 chapters, but we just did it. On our own, I'm sure many of you already did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even more. How many Tehillim were said in this only just this past week? Shabbos itself. What about all our prayers? The Gaon Mivilna says, there is no such thing as the prayer that goes unanswered. It doesn't exist. But we have to remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't work for us. We work for Him. Which means, on Shabbos, a missile fell, Simchas Torah, right next to a shul in Ramah Dalit. Do you understand the miracle? A packed shul. Could you imagine? Who stopped that missile from falling on the shul? Those tehillim we said. Those prayers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't work for you. He has to take your tefillah and use it for whatever you want it? No. He will use it. Some people were healed this week from cancer. Some people who didn't have kids for 10 years became pregnant this week. From where? From the koyach of our tefillahs. If you knew you saved 3,000 people because all those missiles that were sent to us could have killed 3,000 and much more, but it didn't, wouldn't you be unbelievably happy? We have the most powerful weapon in the world. Chalila, to let go. Oh, my tefillahs don't do anything upstairs. We have no idea. The Rishonim have a language, 3 words. They're so powerful. Ilu yeda'ativ heyitiv. If I would know HaKadosh Baruch Hu and really understand His ways, so I would be HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ilu yeda'ativ, if I would really understand, because I'm dying to understand it, so then you would be HaKadosh Baruch Hu yourself, and you're not going to be HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a pasuk when you say in Yeshaya, in the Haftarah of a fast day, we say, you're not going to understand my ways. Ki gavu shamayim me'aretz, ken gavu drachai midarkeichem, u'machshavotay mimachshavosechem. Just like the heaven is much higher than the aretz, so too are my ways and my thoughts. You're not going to be able to understand it. Otherwise, you are Kodesh Baruch Hu. We will one day when Kodesh Baruch Hu decides. But until then, we just have to keep doing what we need to do. We said before, they tell us to smile at certain times, we do. They tell us to cry, we do. We are loyal soldiers. We don't know Cheshbon HaShamayim. Many people are asking, what do we do with the kids? What's the message that we give them? Our kids are not stupid. Our kids are very smart. Many times they're smarter than us. And in this day and age, with the sophistication and the information that's out there, many times they know things that we don't want them to know, and they know it before us. So it's very hard to close all the lines of communications and to shut them away. It's not possible. But as much as possible, to try and convince them not to be connected to the media and to the information, and to just tell them HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised to Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov, I love you. I will take care of your seed. Show them warmth, show them love. While you're struggling with this, we all are. But that's what kids need. They need warmth and love, and to see that we're continuing to do what we believe in, because nothing has changed. It's the same Ribono Shel Olam, it's the same world, and it's the same committed and loyal soldiers that we have to be. Lemaise, what do we do? The first thing is natural hishtadlus, which means if a siren goes off, you run to the mamad, to any other protected place that directives are known. On Shabbos, when we were trying to evacuate the shul, when one of the sirens went off, there was a guy who sat down, and I asked everybody to leave. So I came to him and I said, please. He says, I don't believe in this. I don't know what he meant. I don't know if he didn't believe that there are really missiles. He doesn't believe that the mamad can actually do so. I don't know. So I said to him, you don't have to believe. All you need to do now is to get up and leave. You don't have to believe. You can have all your interesting machshavos and ashkafos. It's irrelevant. But now you have to get up and now you have to leave. These directives save lives, and we can't take them lightly, even after the 11th siren. In Mitzvah Hashem, we should never experience them. What we had, Mitzvah Hashem was the last one, a few hours ago. But if Khalila, we experience more, we can't take it lightly. And that's the first thing that we do. Hishtadlus, natural hishtadlus. And another not less important hishtadlus is to stop poisoning our minds and our souls with constant information. What happened now? Did you see what happened now? What happened? What happened? Every 2 minutes you have to check. What happened now? What happened now? That's poison. Even though I know in Ksubis Yud Zayin the Gemara says Le'olam tiyeh da'ato shel adam me'oreh b'sim habrios. You need to know what's going on. We need to know what's going on. It's true. But why do you have to check it every 2 minutes? And when you do, it drives you crazy. It demoralizes you. It makes you bitter. It makes you frustrated. It demotivates you. It basically paralyzes you. You don't even want to daven. You don't want to learn. And if you somehow drag yourself to sit and learn, you can't, because I have to check what happened. So every 2 minutes you're checking. What kind of learning is that? And those people who are sending to each other social media, all these horrific little movies, you should know that's exactly what the Hamas wants us to do. You're cooperating with the enemy. The Hamas is a terror organization. What's the definition of terror? Terror is a psychological state, despair and desperation, which a large number of people imagine themselves to be victims. When you're constantly sharing these things and affecting people and causing them fear and despair, so you're actually achieving the goal of Hamas. That's exactly what they want to do. To cause us to think that we are all victims. And it's just not true. So I should continue to live normally? A person who is wounded and is sent to the hospital must take care of himself, and he has to make sure that he maintains his health. And that is what we need to do now. We have to make sure that we take care of ourselves and of our families by bringing stability, mental health stability to the house. And that's an essential and such an important aspect of our lives right now. And this can prevent many problems and treatments for the rest of their lives, our lives and our families' lives. How do you do it? You try to cling to a regular schedule, your daily schedule. You get up at the same time you used to get up last week or before Sukkot. And you eat normally. And you do your regular activities. If you work out, you work out. And you go to work, and you go to the kollel, the regular chavrusa. You continue your life. And we have to cling to our values. And that is tefillah, saying tehillim, learning Torah, chesed, accepting small kabbalos on ourselves. These things provide a sense of stability to our souls, because we cling to those things which were always there and always will be there. They are stable. That brings stability to us. And with that, we must give some time to think about the poor families of those who have lost their loved ones, the families of those that we still don't know where they are, missing in action, families of those hostages, the family of and the wounded soldiers themselves. We must feel their pain. We must shed a tear. But you take those tears and use them for prayer. You use them for saying tehillim. You use them for doing chesed. So the first thing we do out of the realm of regular ishtadlus is run to Torah. Because the Pasuk says the Torah is etz chayim hi le'oseh. The Torah provides life. Pirkei Avos, the Tana says, the Torah notenet chayim le'oseh. It provides life. Soita chaf aleph Chazal say, Torah, magna umatzla. Torah protects and shields. The same page, chaf aleph and Soita, the Gemara says, Torah has such a protective power that it protects you be'idna de asikba uve'idna de lo asikba, as opposed to a mitzvah that only provides a a shield while you're engaged in the mitzvah. Torah protects you before and after. Even after you finish learning Torah, it has that shielding effect, shielding power. So we must add more time to our learning. We must learn with a little more commitment, a little more depth. If you're thinking, contemplating, daf yomi, no daf yomi, this is the time. Jump on the wagon. If you're already in daf yomi, I don't know, start Yerushalmi. Do a Rambam yomi, Mishnah Bura yomi. There's no shortage of programs and shiurim and chavrusos, but this is the time to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu our commitment to Torah. If you're learning for an hour and a half your Seder, so make sure you do not look at the phone. Show HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's really important to you. Many years ago, Reb Chaim is very, very young. There was a war in Eretz Yisrael. And Reb Chaim is sitting in the Koilel of Chazon Ish in Bnei Brak. And there are tanks out there and they're shooting. And Reb Chaim is taking another sefer from the shelf and he's looking here, he's looking there, and somebody comes over to him and says, Reb Chaim, you're not afraid? There are tanks out there, they're shooting. I said, what'd you think? There are tanks out there. Tanks? Reb Chaim says, the only nafka mina for us, if a tank is a klisha mekabel tuma or not, you know, what is it? It's a metal vessel, it's 40 seah, it's connected to the ground, that's our only nafka mina. You're sitting with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Tana Devei Eliyahu. Tana Devei Eliyahu Rabba is Torah that we learn from Eliyahu Hanavi. That's what Chazal tell us in Ksubis Kufav. And then Tana Devei Eliyahu Zuta Perek Tet Zayin. Omar Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Ashbi. Kol HaMekabel alav ol Torah, one who accepts on himself the yoke of Torah. Ma'avirin mimeno hirhurei avera vehirhurei cherev. They will remove from him the thoughts, the anxieties, the worries of a sword. He will be protected. Torah is protecting him, but not only that. It will remove the anxiety that's associated with a war. So that is the first thing we run to. When a Jew has a problem, he runs to Torah. And then there's tefillah. And we spoke about tefillah, but what is the essence of tefillah? The Chidah, Rabbeinu Achidah, says, our essence is to daven. How does he know it? Again, we said before, there's a revealed part to every letter and a concealed one. Look at the letters that make up the word Adam, a man. Aleph, Daled, and Mem. Aleph is spelled Aleph Lamed Pei. So we take the Lamed Pei, we put him aside. That's the essence, that's the kishkes, the toch, the pnimius, the inside of man. Daled is spelled Daled Lamed Taf. So along with the Lamed and Pei, we take the Lamed and Taf that we just found and we put them together. Adam, Aleph, Daled, Mem. Mem is spelled Mem, Mem. So there's another Mem like it. We throw it in with the other letters. Those 5 letters form the word Mitpalel. Chidah. Chidah. Rabbeinu Chaim Yosef David Azulay. The essence of man is to stand in David, to pray to Ribono Shel Olam. How important and powerful is tefillah? Listen to a language of Chazal in Medrash Tanchuma. Vayera, Siman Aleph. Omar lein HaKadosh Baruch Hu LiYisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Klal Yisrael, Hevu zehirin bitefillah. Be extremely careful with prayer. She'ein mida acheret yafa mimena. There is nothing like tefillah. Vehi gedoila mikol hakorbanos. This appears also in Brachos Lamed Beis. It's greater than bringing a sacrifice. Ve'afilu ein adam kedai la'anot bitfilasoi. Ve'la'asos chesed imo. And even if a person is not worthy, then I'll listen to his tefillah. He's not worthy, then I'll do chesed with him. Keivan shemispalelu mar bebet hachanunim. Ani oise chesed imo. But he davens. He doesn't stop davening to me. I will do chesed with him. This is the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chazal speak in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'meirim Baba Basra Kuftas Zayin Amud Aleph says, I'm quoting, Le'olam yehe liboy shel adam batuach. Always should a person be sure, certain. Shehatfila k'shi naaset ketikuna. When the tefillah is done as it's supposed to be done, mevatelet et hagzeira. It cancels a decree. Rabbeinu Bechayei wrote a sefer called Kad HaKemach. And in Kad HaKemach, an erech called Tefillah, he writes, Ve'gadol koyach ha-tefillah, afilu leshanos ha-teva. It can change nature. Ve'lihinatzel min ha-sakana, to be saved from danger, from harm. Ulevatel ha-nigzar, and to cancel the decree, the bad decree. And a person should never despair from davening. Because there is Rabbeinu HaRamban, Rosh Verishon LeRabboseinu HaRishonim. The pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim says, Veshamati, I will hear, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ki chanun ani. Says the Ramban, what is this word, chanun? Where does it come from? I'm compassionate, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu about himself, but what's the root? Where does it come from? Says the Ramban, Choinen umekabel trinas kol adam. I'm compassionate and I listen and I accept any person's prayer, afal pi she'eino hagun, even though he is not worthy. Chanun migzeiras chinam. Chanun comes from the language of chinam, a freebie, even though one may not be worthy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will listen. Ki chanun ani veshomea tza'akat kol mitchanen li, because I am merciful and I will listen to anyone who yells unto me and prays to me. And we need to daven. We need to daven for the welfare of the soldiers. For the soldiers that we, in Ramat Bet Shemesh, sent to battle, to all the yeshivas, they are our soldiers. And to the soldiers that we also sent from here and for other places to fight and hold the guns. Those guns will fire because of the other soldiers sitting in Batei Medrash and sitting and learning and providing the koyach for those arms to work. And we must daven for their welfare. Just think about their parents. Sending an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old. Think about all the people who are 40 and 50, who are volunteering or in reserve duty. We must daven for their welfare and for their families. And then there's Tehillim, which you said it before. Tehillim have a special power. If you learn and you don't understand what you learn, you got to learn again. The Sfarim HaKadoshim say that Tehillim have such a power that even if you don't really understand everything you said, it works. David HaMelech asked, this appears in Mizmor Shoicher Tov in Perek Aleph in Tehillim, that his Tehillim will be viewed upstairs kenegaim ve'ohalos. Negaim ve'ohalos is the most complicated material, complicated areas in Shas. And David HaMelech asked that it should be viewed. His Tehillim. Chazal don't tell us what HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered. But apparently, it's widely accepted that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, fine, David, I give it to you. But Negaim and Ohalot, if you learn it and you don't understand, what did you do? You got to learn again. But Tehillim, even if you don't understand, and obviously it's better to try and understand what David HaMelech says. It's written with Ruach HaKodesh. But even if you don't, it still has an unbelievable power, and that's why we always run for thousands of years. When there's trouble, we run to Tehillim. Tzedakah tatzil mimaves, and Chazal say in the Gemara, mimaves mimisa mishunach. Tzedakah has tremendous power to save even from strange deaths. And what we went through on Simchas Torah was basically another Yom Kippur. And if it's Yom Kippur, so we need to take Kabbalos on ourselves. We need to do the whole thing again. A small Kabbalah. If it's big, it's the advice of Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara knows you're not going to be able to do it. 2-3 weeks, you see you fail, get frustrated, and you go back to where you were, and many times go even lower. Small Kabbalah. Something that you can handle. But you stick to it at all costs. 2-3 weeks, it's in the system, you take something else upon yourself. So much chesed has been taking place in the last few days. Just this morning, somebody told me. He drove down to one of the places that they're organizing and accepting food, clothing. He got there at 9 p.m. last night. And he was there until midnight, just standing in his car, sitting in his car, because there were so many cars in front of him doing the same thing. 3 hours sitting to deliver goods because Klal Yisrael does the same thing. You know, in Brachos Daf Vav it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts on tefillin. We know what we have in our tefillin. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. The Gemara says, what's written in HaKodesh Baruch Hu's tefillin? Mi ke'amcha Yisrael? Who is like you? Goy echad ba'aretz. Who does this? How much chesed? People are driving right and to the left. People are endangering their lives. Why? Because we're all in one. We're all united. Give, 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 give. Whatever it is that you have to give. Whatever it is that they're asking for. People are donating blood. Reb Cheskel Abramsky used to say, in benching, we say that we ask the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Al tatzrichenu lematnas basar vadam. Literally, it means we don't want to be the recipient, and we don't want to have gifts. We don't want to be needy and go to collect. But he says he has another kavanah when he says this. I don't want a matana of basar vadam. I don't want a heart transplant, and I don't want any blood infusion. Don't want any other gifts like that. And they said to him, Rebbe, but that's not what it means. He says, but you can have all types of kavanos if it doesn't negate the original kavanah. You can add another kavanah. We don't want to have a matana of basar v'dam. Don't want any organs. We want to maintain our health, keep our bodies intact. And when you donate blood, you're not going to need blood from someone else. Measure for measure. Achdus, 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 achdus. The Medrash says the generation of Achav were idol worshippers. They went to war and they would win because there were no Baalei Lashon Hara among them. The generation of David were giants in Torah. They went to war, but they didn't always win because they were Baalei Lashon Hara among them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't stand lack of Achdus. That's what destroyed Beis HaMikdash. Lashon Hara, Sinas, China, Machloikis. Yom Adav Tesamud Beis HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't stand when his children fight. If we make other people happy, gladden their hearts, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make us happy. That's how the system works. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised. Measure for measure. Sanhedrin Daf Tzadi Amud Aleph, Chazal say, not every so often, sometimes you see measure for measure. The language of Chazal is, Kol midoisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu midah keneged midah. All his midos. That's how he conducts his world. Tanis Chav Beis, Chazal say, Eliyahu Hanavi was once in the market, and somebody came to him and says, Rebbe, so many people here in the market. Who gets to go to the next world, the world to come? And Eliyahu Hanavi pointed to two people. They didn't look so impressive. So he went over to them and he says, what do you do so special? And they said, we're comedians. We make people happy when they're sad. And for that, Eliyahu Hanavi said, they go, Olam Haba. We make peace when people fight, and we make people who are sad happy. The Moshe Cordovera, the Tomer Dvorah, has an unbelievable pirush, and what we always say, Kol Yisrael arevim ze lazeh. We are all guarantors towards one another. But he explains arevim from the language of ta'arovet, a mixture. There's a little of me in you, there's a little of you in me. So we're mamish one. So how can you not try to make the other happy? Shabbos, we're going to read Parshas Bereshis. Adam Arishon. Why is he called Adam? Because he came from the Adama. But again, Reb Moshe Cordovera says that's not the reason. You're reading it wrong. Not because it's the same letters as Adama. It's because it's a pasuk, not Adama. Edameh le'elyon. I should be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Adam is called Adam because Edameh, I will be. I am supposed to emulate Ribono Shel Olam, walk in his ways. Racham aval kol ma'asav. To show and to pour rachamim on everyone. Sanhedrin Daf Tzadi Ches Amud Beis, Chazal asked, Ma ya'aseh Adam v'yenatzel michevlo shel Mashiach. These are chevlei Mashiach, the birth pains of Mashiach. What should a person do? And Chazal say, only two eitzes. Ya'asok b'toire u'v'gmilus chasadim. Toire and gmilus chasadim. There's no other eitzes. But there are other eitzes from Chazal. Here's an easy one. So easy. Shabbos Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis, Chazal say, Kol HaMekayem Gimel Seudos B'Shabbos Eat, Gesundheit, enjoy. Nitzol mechevlo shel Mashiach. Nitzol megimel, 3 corresponding to 3. One of the things that you're saved from is chevlo shel Mashiach. Shall I show this? Easy one. Another, should be easy. One daf later, daf kuf yud tes amud beis Masechet Shabbos. Anyone that says Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba Bechol Koichoi, he cancels the decrees. That's what the Gemara says. In Pirkei Hechalos and a few other midrashim, there's a whole big discussion about this. And one of the angels from the inner chambers reveals to the Kohen Gadol how when Klal Yisrael comes into the shuls and yells Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes all the bad decrees against them and tears them apart. Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba. After Maseches Avodah Zarah and Shas, there are 8 Masechtos called Masechtos Ktanos. Not too many people learn them. I don't know why. Maseches Gerim and Maseches Avadim, Maseches Sefer Torah, Maseches Tfilin, Maseches Tzitzis. Maseches Kala Rabasi is one of them. And in Maseches Kala Rabasi, in Perek Vav, Halacha Gimel, listen to our language. When Rabbi Eliezer was dying, the Talmidim came in and said, Rebbe, Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu, Davar Echad, teach us one thing. Banai ma alamed eschem, what will I teach you? And then Rabbi Eliezer says to him, I'll tell you one thing, but it really is two. Se'u vehizaharu bichvod chaveiro. Be very careful, honoring your friend. ובשעה שאתם מספללים, הבו יודעים לפני מי אתם מספללים. And when you're davening, know before whom you are praying. And listen to our language. שבשביל דבר זה, for this alone, תיכנסו כולכם לחיי העולם הבא. This is Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer HaGodol. For this thing alone, he promises, you will enter Chayei Olam Haba. Know before whom you're davening, when you're davening, and be extremely careful honoring your friends. When should you daven? Here's a secret worth $1 million that Baal HaTurim revealed to me. We're going to have my review after. Parashas Va'eschanan starts with the word Va'etchanan. Moshe Rabbeinu decides this is the time to daven. And he starts davening. But why now? Why not later? Parshas Re'eh, Parshas Shoftim, Parshas Kiseitze, many opportunities before or after. Why now? I know that the Parsha is called Va'etchanan because the first word is Va'etchanan. But why now? It's the shot of Baal HaTurim. And Baal HaTurim says, well, look at the last pasuk in the previous Parsha. Parshas Dvarim ends with the pasuk, Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Klal Yisrael when they're about to fight, and he says to them, don't be afraid. Lo tirau, ki Hashem Elokeichem hu hanilcham lachem. Don't be afraid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to fight your wars. So why should Moshe start davening now? Listen to a language, Baal HaTurim. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, 6 words. Chizakti es Yisrael, ulai yerachem alai. You give chizuk to Klal Yisrael, now is an opportune time to daven. Let's be mechazek our families. You don't have to go far. Do kiruv. Your own families. You can even be mechazek yourself. You're also part of Klal Yisrael. Chizakti es Yisrael. Ulai yerachem alai. Now is the time to daven. Give constant chizuk. For the merit of that chizuk. For the merit of all the chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing. All the chesed that Klal Yisrael is doing, that Hashem sees. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will shower us with chesed. The pasuk says, Hashem, ish milchama. Every morning in Shachris we say, Baal milchamos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who conducts the war, not us. We have to daven, but we have to truly believe our davening creates a lot of turmoil, a lot of noise in Shamayim. And when we do that, and we cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through those means that we discussed, Torah and Tefillah, Tehillim and Tzedakah, Chesed, Kabbalos Toivos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Emir Tzeh Hashem, will look from above, and Emir Tzeh Hashem, we should never know any more challenges like this. We should only know chesed and rachamim. Bebinyan beis hamikdash bekarov b'yameinu. Amen ve'amen.